When you set out to achieve your goals alone, you quickly realize that the applause of men and the validation of society are luxuries you cannot afford to depend on. In solitude, you do not hear the encouragement of friends, you do not feel the push of companions, and you do not enjoy the comfort of a cheering crowd. It is here that one discovers that the most reliable ally is self-discipline. Discipline is not glamorous, it is not loud, and it does not flatter. Yet, it is the silent force that keeps you moving forward when every fiber in your being wants to stop. Discipline is the art of commanding yourself, of issuing instructions to your own spirit and expecting obedience. It is the government of the self. Nations collapse when governance is weak. Organizations falter when leadership is corrupt, and in the same way, individuals fail when they cannot govern themselves. If you cannot rise at the hour you promised yourself, if you cannot complete the task you vowed to finish, then you are like a nation in chaos, rich in potential but poor in execution. The world is full of brilliant people who never fulfill their promise because they are ruled not by discipline but by desire. To achieve your goals alone, you must accept the burden of being your own commander. There is no coach to shout at you, no teacher to scold you, no partner to remind you. You are the captain, the soldier, and the watchman. And when you are tempted to abandon the road, when you feel the weight of isolation pressing down on your shoulders, it is self-discipline that whispers, "Stay the course." Many people misunderstand discipline, thinking it is a restriction of freedom. In truth, it is the very opposite. Without discipline, you are enslaved by your impulses, tossed about by every fleeting desire, enslaved by laziness, procrastination, and distraction. But with discipline, you gain the freedom to focus, to persist, to resist the temptations that derail the ordinary. Discipline is not a prison, it is a pathway to liberation, for it frees you from the chains of inconsistency and gives you mastery over your own destiny. Psychologists remind us that the human brain is naturally inclined toward comfort and avoidance of pain. The mind is designed to protect us from effort. That is why the moment you decide to exercise, the body whispers, "Rest instead." When you attempt to study, distraction suddenly becomes attractive. This is not a weakness of character. It is the default setting of human nature. But discipline is the mechanism by which you reprogram that setting. It is the tool that allows you to override your instincts and choose long-term gain over short-term comfort. Philosophers through the ages have testified to this truth. Aristotle said that we are what we repeatedly do, and excellence is therefore not an act but a habit. Discipline is the mother of habit. It is the repetition of structured actions until they become ingrained in the fabric of your being. The solitary traveler who dreams of reaching the summit must therefore build a life of disciplined routines, for goals are never achieved in sudden leaps but in steady, consistent steps. In solitude, excuses will knock at your door daily. You will hear the voice of fatigue, the lure of distraction, the seduction of procrastination. And you will have two choices: submit to them or silence them. The disciplined mind learns to silence them. It does not negotiate with laziness, it commands it. It does not wait for motivation, it creates it. When you are alone, there is no one to hold you accountable but yourself. And here lies the beauty of discipline. It transforms you into both judge and jury of your own actions, making your progress a verdict of self-mastery. Some may ask, how is such discipline cultivated? It begins with clarity of purpose, for discipline without direction becomes punishment. You must first know what you want and why you want it. Once purpose is defined, discipline becomes the guardian that ensures you do not betray that purpose. You train yourself in small commitments. You start by waking at the hour you promised, by completing the task you began, by resisting the small temptations that whisper at every turn. Slowly, you build an unshakable fortress of self-trust, where your word to yourself becomes law. When you master self-discipline, solitude ceases to be a disadvantage. In fact, it becomes a strength, for while others depend on external validation, you draw from the well within. While others falter when applause ceases, you continue marching forward, sustained not by noise but by vision. Self-discipline is the currency with which you purchase progress in the marketplace of solitude. Without it, you will trade dreams for excuses. With it, you will convert effort into achievement. History offers us countless examples of men and women who walked their path alone, sustained only by inner discipline. Inventors, reformers, prophets, leaders all had seasons where they were misunderstood, ridiculed, even abandoned. Yet they pressed on because discipline bound them to their mission more tightly than applause ever could. They did not stop because others doubted them. They continued because they had mastered themselves. So I submit to you today that if you desire to achieve your goals alone, your first task is not to seek more motivation or more support. Your first task is to train your inner government, to install within yourself the rule of discipline. You must become both the architect and the builder of your own habits, both the dreamer and the executor of your own plan. For in the absence of discipline, solitude becomes unbearable. But with discipline, solitude becomes the training ground of greatness. And when the day comes that your goal is achieved, when you stand upon the mountain you once feared to climb, you will look back and realize that it was not luck, nor chance, nor external encouragement that brought you there. It was the quiet, often painful, often thankless practice of self-discipline. You conquered yourself, and by conquering yourself, you conquered your circumstances. If discipline is the structure that governs your journey, then inner strength and mental resilience are the armor that shields you along the way. For the path of achieving your goals alone is not merely a physical journey of tasks and routines. It is a psychological battle fought in the silence of the mind. It is here in the unseen chamber of thought that victories are first won or lost. Without resilience, discipline collapses under pressure. Without inner strength, even the most carefully designed routines crumble in the face of adversity. Every human being, at some point in pursuit of a goal, will encounter moments of discouragement. Solitude amplifies those moments. When there is no companion to share your burdens, no friend to console you, no voice to reassure you, the weight of doubt feels heavier. Questions rise uninvited. Is this effort worth it? Am I capable of completing it? What if I fail? These are the silent assassins of dreams, and they visit every solitary traveler. To withstand them requires a mind fortified against despair. Psychology teaches us that resilience is not the absence of hardship, but the capacity to recover from it. It is the ability to bend without breaking, to stumble without surrendering, to suffer without quitting. The resilient person understands that pain is not an enemy but a messenger, that setbacks are not signals to stop, but lessons to be studied. When you are alone in pursuit of your goals, setbacks are inevitable. Plans will fail, mistakes will be made, and progress will seem painfully slow. But resilience transforms those setbacks into stepping stones. It whispers in your ear, you are down, but you are not finished. Rise again. The philosopher Nietzsche once declared, "He who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow." This is the essence of inner strength. It is not simply gritting your teeth through hardship. It is grounding yourself so deeply in purpose that hardship loses its power to destroy you. Strength is not measured by the absence of tears, but by the ability to continue even while the tears are flowing. Inner strength does not deny weakness, it transcends it. It acknowledges pain, but refuses to bow before it. And let us remember, resilience is forged, not inherited. Just as fire hardens clay into pottery, challenges harden character into strength. Many wish for an easy path, believing that comfort is proof of progress. But comfort does not build resilience. It is resistance that makes muscles grow, and it is adversity that makes spirits unbreakable. The very obstacles you resent are the instruments shaping your strength. If you avoid them, you remain fragile. If you embrace them, you become unshakable. When you are walking alone, resilience must become your daily shield. There will be days when loneliness feels unbearable, when the silence of your room seems to mock your ambition, when the world appears indifferent to your struggles. In those moments, you must remind yourself that strength is not found in external approval, but in internal conviction. You must learn the art of encouraging yourself, of becoming your own source of inspiration. For if you wait for others to lift you, you may wait forever. But if you cultivate resilience, you can lift yourself again and again until you reach the summit. Consider the lives of great reformers, scientists, and leaders who were once dismissed as dreamers, laughed at as eccentrics, or condemned as fools. They endured ridicule, rejection, and resistance, yet they pressed on. Why? Because they had a reservoir of inner strength that outlasted the insults of men. They had a resilience that outlived their failures. They were anchored by vision, and that anchor kept them steady even when the storms of doubt raged. Their example reminds us that solitude is not the death of ambition, it is the proving ground of resilience. Modern psychology uses the term grit to describe this combination of passion and perseverance. Grit is the quality that makes a student continue studying after repeated failures, that drives an athlete to train in obscurity long before the medals are won, that keeps an entrepreneur building after each rejection. And grit is not inherited from parents or bestowed by mentors. It is carved into the soul by consistent choices to keep going when quitting looks easier. So then, how does one cultivate such inner strength? It begins with perspective. You must stop viewing obstacles as punishments and begin seeing them as preparation. You must teach your mind to reinterpret hardship as training, as the sharpening of your character. Each time you rise after being knocked down, you build a thicker armor. Each time you endure disappointment without surrender, you add another layer to your shield. Slowly, you become like a tree rooted deep into the earth, battered by winds, yet unmovable. But resilience is not only about enduring hardship, it is also about sustaining hope. For a strong body without hope is still defeated. Hope is the unseen fuel that keeps the solitary traveler moving forward. It is the conviction that no matter how dark today appears, tomorrow can be brighter. And this hope is not blind optimism. It is anchored in the belief that persistence produces fruit, that consistency eventually yields results. To live without hope is to surrender to despair. To live with hope is to rise above despair. Therefore, when you choose to achieve your goals alone, understand that inner strength and mental resilience are not optional luxuries. They are necessities. Without them, the solitude will consume you, and the challenges will overwhelm you. But with them, solitude becomes a sanctuary where you discover how powerful you truly are. And so I tell you today, cultivate the kind of resilience that bends but never breaks, the kind of inner strength that acknowledges pain but refuses defeat, the kind of hope that shines even in darkness. For when discipline gives you structure and resilience gives you endurance, nothing can stop you from reaching the destination you have set for yourself. If discipline provides the structure and resilience provides the armor, then consistency is the engine that moves you forward. And here is the irony. Many dreamers lose their battles not because they lack intelligence, not because they lack talent, but because they underestimate the power of small, steady victories. They look at the mountain and despair at its size, forgetting that it is climbed one step at a time. They look at the book they wish to write, the business they wish to build, the body they wish to transform, and the dream appears overwhelming. Yet those who succeed are not necessarily those who leap the farthest, but those who refuse to stop walking, no matter how small the step may seem. Consistency is the quiet discipline of showing up every day. It does not dazzle, it does not attract applause, it is not glamorous, but it is transformative. A person who takes one small step forward every day will surpass the one who runs quickly for a week and then abandons the race. The tortoise will always defeat the hare, not because of speed, but because of persistence. History is littered with abandoned goals, half-written plans, and forgotten dreams, all casualties of inconsistency. The dream is not destroyed by lack of vision. It is destroyed by lack of endurance. Psychologists tell us that the human brain is wired for reward, that progress, however small, releases chemicals that reinforce behavior. That is why small victories are powerful. Each time you complete a task, however minor, you build a sense of accomplishment. And this accomplishment strengthens your belief that you are capable of more. Momentum is born not from giant leaps, but from accumulated steps. The writer who commits to writing one page daily eventually has a book. The athlete who trains steadily, even if modestly, eventually has strength. The entrepreneur who builds consistently, brick by brick, eventually has an empire. Greatness is not built in an instant, it is compounded over time. The tragedy is that many despise small beginnings. They believe progress must be dramatic to be meaningful. But the oak tree begins as a seed. The river begins as a stream. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, and that step must be repeated again and again. Consistency is what transforms the invisible into the visible, the intangible into the tangible, the dream into reality. Without it, even the brightest vision fades into oblivion, and consistency demands humility. It demands that you submit to routine, that you embrace repetition, that you celebrate progress that may seem insignificant to others. For in truth, there is no such thing as insignificant progress. Every effort compounds, every action plants a seed. And though the seed may take time to sprout, persistence ensures the harvest. Those who give up because they cannot see immediate results rob themselves of the miracle that comes only to those who wait and work. Resilience allows you to recover when you fall, but consistency ensures you keep moving when nothing seems to happen. Sometimes the hardest test is not failure but stagnation. It is easy to keep going when results are visible, but can you keep going when nothing seems to change? Can you keep waking up early when success is not yet in sight? Can you keep studying when there is no exam tomorrow? Can you keep practicing when there is no audience watching? That is the test of consistency. It is in those quiet, unseen moments that destiny is shaped. Philosophers remind us that excellence is not an act but a habit, and habits are born of repetition. To achieve alone, you must cultivate habits that align with your vision. You must make your daily actions reflect your ultimate destination. And when those actions are repeated long enough, they become second nature. At that point, success is no longer a question of effort. It becomes the natural consequence of who you have become. Think of water dripping upon stone. Each drop appears insignificant, powerless, harmless, yet given time, the stone is shaped, carved, even broken by the persistence of the water. Such is the power of consistency. What seems weak today becomes unstoppable tomorrow, not by force, but by endurance. The solitary traveler must therefore commit to the rhythm of daily progress, knowing that even the smallest effort, repeated faithfully, is rewriting the future. And we must not forget the philosophy of momentum. Momentum is the invisible force that arises when consistent actions accumulate. At first, progress feels slow, like pushing a heavy wheel uphill. But with every small victory, the wheel begins to turn more easily. Eventually, it turns with such speed that stopping becomes harder than continuing. This is why those who persist often appear unstoppable, not because they were stronger than others, but because they reached the point where momentum carried them forward. Consistency also guards against the deception of motivation. Motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes like the wind. If you wait to feel inspired, you may wait a lifetime. But consistency is not dependent on feeling. It is dependent on commitment. It is the ability to act not because you feel like it, but because you said you would, and it is in this constancy that greatness is born. The examples are countless. The artist who sketches daily, the leader who reads consistently, the musician who practices relentlessly, the reformer who speaks tirelessly, all built their legacy not in bursts of brilliance, but in steady persistence. They understood that time rewards consistency. That is why the ancients tell us, do not despise the day of small beginnings, for in those small beginnings lie the seeds of greatness. So then, I submit to you that achieving your goals alone requires not only discipline and resilience, but the patience of consistency. You must learn to honor small victories, to celebrate daily progress, to trust the compounding effect of persistence. You may not see the fruits immediately, but each day you show up, you water the seed, and in due season the harvest will appear.